The desert wind carried the scent of creosote and ancient sorrow through the dusty streets of Remnant. No one remembered the blind blacksmith's true name, only the rhythm of his hammer on steel. He had been a gunman once, quick as a rattlesnake, until a bullet stole his sight. They found him bleeding in the alkali flats, his eyes gone, his soul thirsting for death. A widowed healer named Marta took him in, teaching him that hands can see deeper than eyes. She taught him the forge, the bellows, the alchemy of turning broken things into lasting purpose. Before she passed, she whispered a secret into his ear. Tears mixed with copper yield gold. He thought it a fever dream, but her words lodged in his heart like a hot ember. For 10 years, he shaped horseshoes and hinges, his fingers reading the metal like Braille scripture. He never saw the sun, but he felt its warmth on his scarred face each dawn. His world was dark, yet his inner vision painted landscapes more vivid than any painted sky. Then, one evening, he heard footsteps unlike any other, dragging something heavy across the gravel. The bell above his door chimed, and the scent of wildflowers mixed with blood entered his space. A young woman's voice, cracked like dry riverbed, asked if he was the blind smith. He nodded, sensing her trembling and the metallic clank of iron links she dropped. She told him her name was Ilawan, and she had run 40 miles barefoot that day. The irons she carried were shackles, forged by a rancher who claimed her as his property. He had chained her to a cast-iron stove on their supposed wedding day, laughing as she wept. She shattered the links with a stolen hammer, fleeing into the merciless wilderness to survive. Now she stood before him, not seeking pity, but a transformation only his hands could perform. She asked him to take her broken chains and forge a golden ring of redemption. He was silent for a long moment, the embers of the forge crackling like distant gunfire. Then he asked her why gold, when iron had been the metal of her deepest suffering. She replied that she wanted to marry hope itself, and hope deserved a golden crown. He heard the steel in her voice, the same steel he once carried in his holster. He agreed, but on one condition: she must stay and witness every hammer blow. The forging would take 3 days, and she must add her tears to the quenching water. That first night, he melted the iron shackles in a crucible glowing like a fallen star. His hands moved by memory and touch, feeling the temperature through the air's subtle vibration. He spoke as he worked, describing how blindness had taught him that every soul contains hidden ore. He told her of his gunfighting days, the men he killed, the darkness he once worshipped. She listened, her tears falling freely into a clay bowl placed beside the anvil's edge. He explained that her tears were not weakness, but the sacred water that tempers holy steel. By dawn, the first day's melt cooled into a rough, ugly ingot of base iron. He gave it to her to hold, asking her to feel its weight and remember her chains. She clutched it, feeling its coldness, but he promised it would soon burn with light. He then took copper dust saved from Marta's old apothecary jar and sprinkled it into the crucible. The copper was a gift from his healer, meant for making bells that rang with joy. He mixed the iron and copper together, stoking the fire until the metal glowed bright orange. He told her that copper is the metal of the heart, carrying life through veins of stone. As the metals blended, he asked Alawan to whisper her deepest dream into the fiery liquid. She leaned close, her breath fanning the flames, and spoke of a small ranch where fear died. She dreamed of wild horses in a garden, a life where no one owned another human soul. He nodded, his blind eyes seeing her dream more clearly than any painting on a church wall. The second night, he began to hammer the ingot, folding it over and over like dough. Each strike sent sparks dancing, and he chanted an old hymn his mother sang over cradles. He told Alawan that every fold represented a scar, layered together to form a stronger whole. She wept again, and he caught the tears in a small ladle, adding them to the quench. The steam that rose carried a fragrance of rain on parched earth, cleansing the forge. He explained that sorrow, when willingly given, becomes the very agent of transformation and renewal. On the third day, the metal had changed. Its color shifted from gray to a pale gold. He could feel the difference under his hammer, a softer resonance, a warmth that spoke. He filed and polished, his fingers acting as his eyes, smoothing every imperfection into gleaming perfection. Finally, he held up the finished ring, and even without sight, he knew it radiated light. He could hear Alain gasp, a sound that filled his dark world with 1,000 colors. He took her left hand, tracing the calluses on her palm, feeling her pulse beneath. Gently, he slid the golden ring onto her finger, and she felt a warmth flood her. It was not the heat of the forge, but the heat of a promise made solid. She stared at the ring, tears streaming, and for the first time, she truly laughed. The sound was like a bell forged from copper and freedom, ringing through the quiet town. She asked him how iron could become gold, defying every law of nature she ever knew. He replied that the secret was not in his hands, but in her courage to bring tears. Marta's wisdom had proven true. Human sorrow combined with love yields a treasure beyond earthly riches. She knelt before him, not in subservience, but in profound gratitude for her reclaimed dignity. He lifted her gently, saying she owed him nothing, for her freedom was forged by her. But she saw a deeper truth. He had redeemed his violent past by creating a holy object. She stayed in Remnant, building the ranch she had whispered into the crucible's molten heart. The blind blacksmith taught her to shoe horses, his hands guiding hers with patient reverence. Together they built a life, not as master and servant, but as partners in creation. The golden ring never tarnished, glowing softly in moonlight as a reminder of the forge. Travelers came from distant territories to see the ring and hear the tale of transformation. Alain would tell them that the blind man saw her worth before she ever saw it. The blacksmith would humbly correct her, insisting that her spirit had been the true source of gold. He said he was merely a vessel, a pair of hands that remembered how to heal. As years passed, their bond deepened into a quiet love that needed no words or ceremonies. They already wore their commitment, she in gold, he in the satisfied silence of redemption. When Alain's hair turned silver, the ring still gleamed as brightly as that third morning. They sat on their porch listening to wild mustangs thundering across the open range at dusk. She asked him once if he ever mourned the sight he lost in that long-ago gunfight. He touched her face, tracing the lines of her smile, and said he saw everything now. He saw a world where shackles became crowns, where the broken heart learned to beat again. She kissed his scarred eyelids, and he felt a light brighter than any desert sunrise. They lived long, passing the secret of tear-tempered gold to a young orphan girl. The girl herself had been discarded, but they taught her to forge her own worth. So the legend of the blind blacksmith spread across the frontier, carried by prairie winds. He proved that inner vision outshines the sun, and that grace is forged in darkness. The golden ring remains, a family heirloom that still warms the hand of the hopeful. Alain's chains were never found, for they had been utterly transformed into radiant freedom. Remnant grew into a town known for second chances and the sound of a bell-like hammer. His forge still stands, and some say you can hear Marta's hymn echoing there. Thank you for witnessing this tale of molten redemption and love from West Old Stories. If your spirit needs forging, subscribe to West Old Stories Official and like this video. Tell us in the comments what broken thing you would bring to his sacred fire.